Let's take a look at some of the key issues, of course, that we did say we'll be tracking for you throughout the course of the show. Of course, the EFF celebrating its 12th anniversary, that taking place in Khayelitsha, right on the top of your screen there. And also in our second screen, SABC News International News Editor Sophie Mokoena, who will be talking to us about what you're seeing right at the bottom of her there, which is the ANC Liberation Movement Summit, which is taking place here in Johannesburg. And this is where we start, of course, with it. The former Mozambican President, Joaquim Chissano, saying that liberation movements on the continent have now deviated from what they stood for, which is to serve the people. Chissano was speaking at a gala dinner here in Johannesburg ahead of the ANC Liberation Movement Summit, which is, of course, what you can see on our screen right at the bottom there. The summit aims to discuss a variety of issues amid the geopolitical tensions. For more on this, SABC News International News Editor Sophie Mokoena joins us now. Ms. Sophie, thank you very much indeed for your time. First of all, I cannot believe that this is our last crossing together on the agenda. We've spent so much time with you here. You've been a regular on the show, of course, with all things international and things that are happening on the African continent. First of all, before we get our interview, thank you very, very much for your contribution. And we're still going to see you, not in this capacity, but we're still going to see you, and you're still going to contribute very immensely to the breaking news stories on the continent as well as around the globe. Let's start with what's happening in Johannesburg today. So the former Mozambican President, Joaquim Chissano, challenging former liberation movements to do introspection. And that's likely to happen at the summit because over the past decade, we've seen a decline in electoral support when we look at liberation movements on the continent.
Yes, you are correct, Griselda. We've seen the liberation organizations losing support in different countries. When you take, for example, South Africa, today you have what we call Government of National Unity because the African National Congress, and remember, this is the oldest liberation organization in Africa, and one, if you were to say it's a political party, amongst the oldest political parties in the world, 113 years. And now this time around, last year, losing that absolute majority. And therefore, this is a time to reflect. You go to countries such as Namibia, it was a difficult one for SWAPO to pull it through, and you had a strong political party, the opposition emerging. You go to Mozambique, we saw those violence because you had an opposition that was pushing also. You go to Zimbabwe, we saw the opposition party there pushing also, and that led to the tension, that led to violation of human rights. You go to countries such as Angola also, we saw how the opposition was also pushing to ensure that they do get seats in parliament, and therefore it's not business as usual. But let's reflect, let's listen at what former FRELIMO President Joaquim Chissano said last night, because for me, this is very important to reflect. Joaquim Chissano spoke about where the organizations have veered off the road, but also talking about some former leaders who stood the test of time and were very strong in pushing for the unity of the organization of the continental body and the continent. And therefore, let's listen in. He starts by commending the former ANC President Thabo Mbeki, how he united the region in terms of his work as a head of state. But also you'd recall the last meeting of this kind was in 2002 under his leadership as ANC president and the president of the country. Then he moves to the challenges these liberation organizations are facing. Let's take a look.
I would like to begin by expressing my profound honor in sharing this moment of reflection with Comrade President Thabo Mbeki, whose strategic vision and commitment to African unity continued to be inexhaustible sources of inspiration. His leadership has been a vital pillar in the struggle for a free, just and prosperous Africa, and it is with great appreciation that I share this space of reflection alongside with him. Today, as we remember these heroes and heroines, we must ask ourselves, are we living up to the legacy they left behind? Comrades, it is crucial that we recognize that over time we made mistakes. In many of our countries, we witnessed the weakening of democratic institutions, the growing distance between parties and citizens, the capture of public resources by private interests, and intolerance towards dissenting voices. In the name of unity, we silenced critical voices. In the name of stability, we closed spaces for renewal. In the name of continuity, we did not create spaces for the active participation of youth and women in decision-making processes.
Masofi, it's also worth mentioning, though, given the fact that, the EFF is celebrating 12 years, this is taking place in Khayelitsha. We've been speaking to our colleagues who've been on the ground there. It's worth mentioning that while this summit takes place, there are parties such as the EFF that are starting to enjoy some support on the continent.
You are correct. I think where former President Chissano says we clamp down on dissent. We saw that happening within the governing party that led to the fracture of the governing party with the breakaway. For example, the EFF today. We know that they were expelled in the governing party at that time, but the Liberation Organization, because they challenged the leadership when they were in the Youth League about the trajectory the party was taking in terms of the future of the organizations such as the ANC, both internal and external. You'd recall Malema challenging the ANC, particularly to say something about what's happening in Botswana, in Zimbabwe, and that didn't sit well with the leadership of the ANC, then even questioning some of the leadership within the party. And that led to this breakaway. Now this breakaway has got some, I don't know what to call it. You have parties that have modeled themselves like EFF Liberia, EFF Kenya, EFF Zimbabwe, EFF Lesotho, and many other countries. That speaks to what you are talking about. As the EFF today celebrates 12 years, but the issue is they also took some electoral losses last year because of the emergence of Umkhonto weSizwe Party, which is also a breakaway from the African National Congress, with quite a confusion there, because the leader and the president of this Umkhonto weSizwe Party is going to court to fight that he gets his membership back in the ANC. So also these kinds of confusion, these kinds of tension leads to situations where the liberation organizations are kind of getting affected because there's some confusion. So for MK, if the president says, I want to go back to the ANC, I want my membership, what must happen to his party? You know, those kinds of confusion, that's exactly what former president of FRELIMO, Joaquim Chissano, is talking about.
And I mean, Chissano speaks about, these liberation movements basically no longer standing for what the people want. I mean, how is this not just going to be a talk shop, or how do they ensure this is not just going to be a talk shop here in Johannesburg, but actually speak to issues that the electorate, that the people in these various countries want to hear from some of these leaders?
I hope they will be robust. It can't be business as usual. It can't be. How many Zimbabweans do we have in South Africa because of the economic challenges in their country? How many Mozambicans are here in South Africa? And many others, which leads to a situation where this country's resources are squeezed, and this leads to tensions amongst Africans. And therefore, these leaders must be honest with themselves. Have they built their countries in such a way that, Sophie Mokoena, I'm a South African, I have no intention of leaving South Africa because I am surviving in my country. I don't have to go to Ghana to survive because the institutions of democracy have been weakened. There's lawlessness, there's crime, there are no economic opportunities, the youth are restless and despondent. We can't continue to have that situation. And therefore, I hope President Ramaphosa tomorrow, he is not going to be diplomatic if they want to correct and address these challenges. And the elders, former President Thabo Mbeki and Chissano, who will be there, they must not be diplomatic about these issues. They have nothing to lose. They are retired.